Let's go to Ben here. Ben W. You are up next, sir. Hello.
Hey, Bart, how are you?
How's it going, Ben?
Good. I've got a hand out of Rivers Des Plaines for you.
Rivers Des Plaines in the Chicago area, right?
You bet.
All right, Rivers Des Plaines. That is a place that I have not played at. And what is the game size here?
So this is their smallest game. It's a 1-3 with a 500 cap.
1-3, 500 cap. Okay.
All right. So we have a full ring, 9-handed. Just to give some background, we have kind of a aggressive villain. I don't know if you want me to name him. He is a well-known poker player.
Sure.
So it's Texas Mike.
You put that in the email, but I didn't know who that was. Is that like a legend on the live streams or something like that?
Oh, he played the Hustler $1 Million game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He bluffed $1 million.
And he's playing 1-3, 500 cap now?
He normally doesn't. He normally plays much bigger games at Rivers. He and a couple buddies sat down at a weekday early evening, and they all bought in for the max and pushed some very aggressive action.
So you have a guy that bluffed $1 million in a Hustler game playing 1-3, 500 cap, okay?
Yes.
And how deep are you guys?
So I am on the button. I'll be the effective stack. I'm about 1280, so I bought in for 400. I've had a pretty good day.
All right. I mean, that's pretty deep for a 1-3 game, right?
Yeah. Texas Mike was well over 3,000 at that point.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, I don't see that very often. So it was definitely an incredibly unusual spot.
Just because you have to build your stack up, right?
Well, so they had kind of, I don't know how much background you want me to give, but the short of it, they kind of were really aggro, him and two of his friends.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like all in constantly, were in for quite a few bullets. I'm not sure if they were up or down, but he had successfully built, a $3,000+ stack at this point in the game.
Okay.
Much of the time, like he did have it. Like he was getting it in good post flop.
Okay.
Quite a few times. No straddle in this hand. It's not uncommon for there to be one, but just no raises yet. It folds over to the villain, and he makes it 25.
From what position?
He is in middle position.
So he just goes to straight 25 with no straddle, so it's a big open.
Correct.
Okay.
He'd been raising 20 to 25, so this wasn't unusually large. Obviously, for a normal game, I would say it is, but
okay.
It gets called by cutoff. I look down at ace of clubs, ace of hearts.
Okay.
And I 3-bet to 125.
So 25 call, and you 3-bet to 125. I got to tell you, with this setup here, I'm making it larger against a guy named Texas Mike that's playing 1-3. I'm going to get the most amount of money I possibly can get. I might make it 200 here. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, yeah, you make it 4x plus the call. I'm just saying as a...
Sure.
I don't know if has he ever raised and then folded to a 3-bet in this game?
That's a fair question. At this point, he had pretty much calmed from the aggressive shoving pre-flop with garbage.
Uh-huh.
Now that he was as deep as he was, I wasn't seeing him get out of line quite as much. So I guess I obviously didn't want him, and I hadn't 3-bet in some time, and obviously didn't want to look down at aces and get a fold immediately. So that was my thinking that 5x was pretty good, but I definitely probably could have gone larger.
So you go to 125, he calls?
Yeah, so it folds back to him, blinds fold, he calls, and the cutoff folds. So we're heads up.
So cutoff fold. So you're heads up. So you put two. So it's like 275 and change or something, right?
Yeah, I have it at 273 with the rate.
Okay.
So the flop is 10 of spades, 9 of diamonds, 2 of hearts.
Not bad. Okay.
Villain checks. Mm-hmm. And I think this is probably where I make my first mistake. I partially wanted to disguise the strength of my hand and partially was just trying to pot control right away, and I checked back.
Checks behind. So are you playing a little scared there, Ben?
Absolutely. It's very unusual for me to be this deep, especially with a maniac. I would definitely be denying if I wasn't playing scared at this point.
So so it sounds to me like you were not comfortable betting and facing a raise, right? If he were to raise you.
Yeah, I think that's extremely fair to say. I think if it had been pre-flop, no big deal. But now, I don't know if I can put him on a range here. It's tough for me to say. I don't think he has 10s or 9s. I think he 4-bets me. Obviously, 10 deuce, the Doyle Brunson, unlikely, but not impossible for him.
I mean, I would tell you what I would do. And listen, we're not robots and stuff like that. And I understand if you know, you don't typically play and you've built a stack up and maybe this is one of the most amounts of money that you've had in front of you in a long time. And then all of a sudden you're playing against a guy who's like, shit, played the $1 million game and he's not capable, you know, he's certainly capable of bluffing me. But to be honest with you though, it's kind of like a dream spot in a sense that like, I'm just going to bet small. And then if he makes a play at me, so be it. Just call down. Like, you know, you bet like something stupid like 75. And you see check raises to 500 or something. Like you call, and then there's only one pot size bet left. Like it's just it. I mean, it's 10-9 deuce. Like, yeah, he can have a set of tens or a set of nines, and I guess like 10-9. But it's not like it's 10-9-8. Where you're up against many other hands that beat you like 6-7 as a straight, queen, jack, jack 7, and other two pairs. I mean, it would be a little bit better if it was 10. Well, let me ask you this question. What if the board was 10-6 deuce instead of 10-9 deuce?
Yeah, that's probably a little bit less, I don't know if scary is the right word, but it's certainly obviously a drier board would be easier for me to have continued. I do think that I did want to disguise the strength of my hand. I don't know if that, like I was hoping that if he was going to bluff at it, he maybe wouldn't.
Well, there is something to be said, but I think we drilled into that it was more of you being a little bit maybe possibly intimidated by the getting bluffed or the game size. But there is something to be said when you're playing against an overly aggressive player to sometimes feign weakness, where if you think a check back might look like ace king, you're trying to get him to fire. The only issue with that, though, is that sometimes people do that and then they scare themselves out of the hand and they don't call down later on,
right?
Depending on the run out. So. All right, so 10-9 deuce rainbow, check, hero checks behind, the pot remains 275, okay?
So the turn is a 5 of clubs.
Okay.
And villain bets out for 150.
So Texas Mike bets 150. Okay.
I posture for a second, but flick in the call. I certainly thought about raising, but I don't know if that makes sense now in the hand.
I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to do that now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if you're trying to get the guy to feign, what's the point of raising now?
For sure. I think that was where my mindset was. I was like, if he's going to bluff at it, I'm prepared to call down at this point.
Right. Okay. So 10-9 deuce again. Hero with ace checks back the flop against Texas Mike in a 3-bet pot. Turns a 5 of clubs. Pretty innocent card. Guy bets Texas Mike bets 150. Hero calls. Hero has, by the way, about 1,000 left, right, in the stack with the pot being
correct,
right around 575. Okay, what's the river?
The river's a jack of hearts.
Okay.
And without thinking, he has a large stack of $500 purples, and he slides them in.
How did I know this? How did I know this wasn't coming?
I too, the whole way was like, I know it's coming. And I immediately said to him when he did it, I was like, I knew this was going to happen.
Well, here's the thing. The only time that I don't meet many lags that are good that play at like sort of the low stakes. It was kind of funny, like even back at the 5-10 games and stuff like that, there were lags in the game and they were all fucking terrible, right? The only time that you get into a situation here is if you really had a ton of respect for a guy and he was like very, very aggressive, where you thought that you made your hand look stronger, or that he knew that he knew you had something. And it would have just been a spot where he would just never bluff into something. But that's not the case here. I mean, all things point to the fact that you check behind the flop, you called 150. The guy plays the $1 million game here. You just can't fold when you play it this way. I'm sorry, you just can't fold.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a few more things happen. I remembered that repeatedly throughout the day, he has been willing to show a card. And I'm tanking, kind of thinking about this, and I'm about to ask him to show a card when his buddy says to me, like, hey, if you're going to tank this long, like, show us what you have. And I'm like, well, I have aces. So I flip over my aces.
So you flip over, you say to him, you show him what you have?
Mm-hmm. I show him aces.
Okay.
And I say to Texas Mike, because again, I've seen him a number of times when he's been in large, and he's been playing pots this big all night. He's been willing to show a card. So I'm like, are you willing to show a card? He's like, absolutely, pick one. So I pick one and he flips over the jack of clubs.
So let me get this straight. You show your hand first, then you say, can I pick a card? And he says yes after you showed your hand.
Correct.
And did he pick and you picked a random card?
Correct. Yeah, like he like separated them and said pick a card, and I chose one.
Reminds me of this whole J-Dog thing back in TCH from the I mean, it's nothing like that, but it's just, I just wanted to make sure that stuff was clear. And also, too, that the fact that you're actually picking a random card here, because that makes a huge bit of difference here, too, because if a guy doesn't beat aces because of what he holds, and then there's like a 50% chance that you can pick a card that has no connection with the board, like whatsoever, and then you just have a trivial call. So I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to see if I'm giving the guy credit. Like, I don't. He should never do that. If he should never let you pick a card that would there's a 50% chance that he can't beat aces, like a 3 or something like that, right?
Absolutely.
So he has a jack in his hand. That means that he should have something else that wouldn't give away the fact that he loses to you, which means that he should have like an 8 in his hand, a queen, a king, something like that, so that if you picked the other card, you could still be beaten.
Right.
But
absolutely. Every time he's done this and shown a card, he's ended up having 2 pair or better. So this did not give me the confidence that I needed, and I tanked for another 30 seconds, flipped my aces back over, and said I was going to randomize because I just couldn't.
You said you were going to randomize?
I was going to pick, if I picked the ace of clubs, I was going to call. I think my mind said your call, you're good. My heart said fold, keep playing in this game. That's
well. Let me think of something else here too. Like the interesting part of this is that, like, so again, assuming that it's random, right, and that you pick the jack here, you wouldn't like. Why would, if he only had a pair of jacks? Now I don't know Texas Mike, so maybe he would do this, but just logically, if he had a pair of jacks here only, like say he had queen jack here, right?
Sure.
Why would he need to turn that into a bluff for 2x? It's a 3-bet pot. You go check, 10-9 deuce, right? Okay, he comes out and he bets with queen jack on the turn, right? Or jack 8. Both are open-ended, right? You call, and now he makes top pair. Why would you move all in? Like, isn't that like a weird candidate to move all in when you hit top pair? You see what I'm saying?
For sure. And that's, my heart said he had jack. I was thinking he had jack 10, and I'm like, can he possibly run this good and catch 2 pair on the river just continually during the night?
So it is interesting for that thought that maybe him showing the jack would kind of make me want to fold, because why would he have a single pair jack here? For fun, people are saying, just for play. Maybe, but I got to tell you, it kind of makes me want to fold now, to be honest with you, the more you think about it. Because of that card and because of what I said.
Okay.
What ended up happening?
Fully conflicted. I ended up picking ace of clubs, so I flicked in the call, and I assumed that he would, say you're good if I was good. But he flipped over the other card, and it was a queen, so I was good.
Wow.
Tacoma, a nice...
So he jammed with queen jack at the end.
Jammed with queen jack.
So you would have picked... So if you had picked the other card, it would have been a queen.
Correct, yeah, which obviously then he could have, king, queen-ish, lots of...
Right.
Straights that...
Well, not lots of straights. He would have had either king, queen, or queen 8.
Right.
That's interesting.
Which both were, I think, well within. Queen 8 maybe a slight stretch, but...
I mean, I guess if he's putting it all together, like in real time, like who's the guy that owns all the casinos, who's good with the speech play? Eric Person. Putting all that shit together, like in real time, and putting it saying, wow, this guy's got aces. Both of these cards are going to reveal... not going to give away like the value of my hand, and I can still beat him, then, more power to him. But it's just interesting because was he betting for value at the end?
It's funny. He got up from the table, and I said to his buddy, I was like, was he betting for value? I like questioned it at first, and his buddy was like, absolutely not. He knew he was bluffing. And I never asked him, I don't think that's terribly respectful after a pot like that to ask someone, what were you doing? But I was equally confused. I think he knew he was no good, because I don't think I would have called the 150 if I didn't have something that likely had him beat.
Some people are saying if he turned over the queen does that change anything? What do you do? If he turned over a queen, you'd be like, well, only king queen beats me, right? Or in queen 8. But if he doesn't have that, why? Like, what is he bet? Like, why is he jamming 2x pot with like queen 10, queen? It's the same type of thing. So it's pretty bizarre. But, sometimes all things go out the window with guys like this that are splashing around. You just close your eyes and call. Actually, I'm kind of glad you didn't. I mean, that's a real disaster. I don't even, I mean, it can't be a bad thing to ask to see a card, right? It's more information than no information. But if you're going to start this one by checking behind, forget about all this other shenanigans that happen. If you take that out, I mean, you just close your eyes and call down if you're going to start the hand that way by checking back. So anyways, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.